What's going on, guys? Today we're going to be diving into the concept of catch and throw. We're going to be going over some simple drills that you can utilize as you're exploring this idea, as well as some simple prompts that you can utilize and implement as you're labbing with this concept. So let's just go ahead and hop into it. So to get started, we're gonna break down the basics of what catch and throw actually is. This is a dance concept that we can utilize while we're freestyling to add new layers of creativity to our movement. So basically how catch and throw works is we're going to conceptualize this idea of catching something and throwing it. Catching and throwing, catching and throwing. Now you can imagine or conceptualize whatever it is that you want it to be that you're catching and throwing. Sometimes I'll think of magic dust, sort of like Tinkerbell and pixie dust. Or I'll think of like an energy ball, a little orb that I can throw and catch. Maybe it comes back to me or something else throws it back to me after I throw it. Whatever it is that helps you to conceptualize and utilize this idea most effectively, utilize that as the thing or the object that you are throwing. I think it actually helps to conceptualize what it is that you are catching and throwing because it helps you to dive into this idea of actually experiencing the concept versus just making it look like you are, if that makes sense. If we can actually dive into the world of what is it that I'm holding, how does it react, or what is the effect when I throw it, it'll help the concept to come across more authentically versus just being like catch, throw, if that makes sense. So those are really the only stipulations for this concept, this idea of catching something and throwing it. Now within that, you can work or create any pattern that you want. You can either catch something first or you could throw something first. And you don't always have to catch and then throw. You could throw multiple times or simply catch something, catch multiple objects, if that makes sense. So it's not necessarily that you have to catch and throw, catch and throw. It's more so utilizing those two basic concepts within your movement and trying to find all of the different ways that you can apply those ideas. So a couple of different ways that I like to play around with it is to, one, like we just broke down, change up the order of either catching something first or throwing something first. You can catch something with two hands, break it apart, throw it. You could catch something with two hands separately, bring it together and throw it. You could catch something behind your back. You could throw it behind your back, watch it, catch it on the other side. You could throw something between your legs. You could throw something down at the floor and it bounces back up. Boom, boom. There's so many different ways that you can play around with this idea. And really the only limit is your imagination. Don't think of it as so much rules that you have to abide by when you're utilizing this concept. You have to catch and you have to throw in this certain way. Think about it more so as a prompt that can lead to other forms of exploration. So maybe you start by just playing around with the catch and throw idea in its most basic form, yeah? And then maybe that morphs into something else. Boom. A lot of times when I'm playing around with this idea, it'll start with me playing around with the basic catch and throw idea, and that will inevitably launch into something else. Sometimes when I'm catching and throwing, I might catch something and then absorb that thing into my body. So maybe I catch it and then it sort of starts to absorb into my arm and it travels all the way through my body. And that has an effect on me. The idea that I'm getting at is that this is meant to be a prompt that leads to more exploration. And so don't feel like you have to be so legalistic about it in the sense of like, if I'm not catching and throwing in a specific way that I'm doing it wrong. Try to approach this idea more so with the perspective of freely exploring it and just being open to whatever comes out of your exploration versus trying to manufacture a certain result. So now that we've broken down some basics of what this concept is and some ways that we can sort of play around with it, we're going to break down a couple of different ideas and drills that you can utilize to sort of give you a little bit more direction. If you've never played around with this idea before, these concepts might be helpful in sort of generating ideas for you as you're labbing this idea. So the first one that we're going to break down is going to function more so as a drill that you can replicate and just practice. This one functions a little bit more so as a drill. You're going to have a specific task that you carry out as you're exploring this idea of catch and throw. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to select one repeatable footwork step. Now that could be simply a kick step rock, that could be a cross step, some basic top rock step. It could be a two-step, simply stepping side and bringing your feet together. It could be a pattern. You could step to the front and then to the side. It's really whatever you want, but the idea is more so to establish a consistent pattern or to establish some sort of footwork step in your body, and then from here to add on or incorporate this idea of catch and throw. So you're maintaining a basic footwork step in your lower body, while at the same time you are multitasking and playing around with this idea of catch and throw. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. We're simply thinking about establishing some sort of footwork step as we are exploring this concept of catch and throw, if that makes sense. Now again, you can utilize whatever pattern it is that's going to be most helpful for you in exploring this idea. This drill is more so an opportunity to dive into this concept of multitasking, establishing one task in the lower body and then implementing another task in the upper body. In a lot of the other ideas that we're going to break down today, we're going to focus on different ways that we can sort of utilize this concept of catch and throw with other parts of our body rather than just using our hands. For this specific drill, we're thinking about how we can establish and maintain two different concepts in the body at the same time, diving into this concept of multitasking. Now, before we move on to the next two drills, let's go ahead and give this drill a shot with some music. For this second idea, we're going to be playing around with this concept of how we can take the motions of catch and throw and apply them to other parts of our body. A lot of times when it comes to this concept, it's very easy to get caught up in just using the hands, only catching and throwing with our hands, which makes sense because most of the time when we catch stuff or we throw it, it's with our hands. So that's just what we naturally go to. And there's nothing wrong with just utilizing the hands when you play around with this idea. But I do think that it is helpful and a good creative exercise to sort of think outside of the box and try to implement other parts of our body into this sort of exploration. So, a couple of ways that I like to play around with this concept is simply to think about how I could catch something with another part of my body. Let's say I wanted to throw something up in the air and catch it with my foot. Maybe I take my hand, I throw the object up into the air, follow it, boom, and I catch it with my foot. Then from there, I could throw it up into the air and catch it with my hand again. Or I could throw it up and over myself, boom, catch it with my foot. And then from there, I could, boom, throw it back up and over and catch it on the other side. Now, obviously, it may not be the most realistic, but what we're kind of diving into here is this idea of using our imagination. The cool thing about dance concepts is they don't necessarily have to be realistic. We can make them look more realistic, but we're sort of existing inside of this fantasy world where anything is possible. And the only limitation that we have is how realistic we can make the illusion of the thing that we're doing. So I could decide, I'm gonna throw something up in the air and I'm gonna catch it in between my knees. And then from there, I'm gonna throw it up and catch it behind my back. There's no limits to what we are allowed to do. It's more so how do we more effectively create the illusion that what we're showing is happening is actually happening. So that is sort of the second prompt or idea that I'm gonna lay before you guys as you're exploring this concept of catch and throw. How can you utilize other parts of your body to make your exploration a little bit more interesting? I think a very helpful idea to keep in mind as you're exploring this concept or any dance concept is just this concept of not taking it too seriously and not being too hard on yourself, I guess, as you're exploring. Thinking about it more so as a fun activity and trying to approach it with just like this childlike openness and wonder, I guess. Trying to dive back into our ability to use our imagination and just to create this sort of imaginary world where everything that we think is possible and we are not confined to the real rules that exist within reality. That's part of the fun of freestyle, in my opinion, using your imagination to make things that wouldn't normally be possible. So a couple of different specific ideas that you could utilize as you're exploring this idea would be to catch something and to throw it with your feet. You could either catch it on the side of your foot, on the top of your foot, on the back of your heel. You could even think about not necessarily catching something, but just bouncing it off of your heel like a hacky sack. A lot of times I'll think about catching something with my knees, in between my knees, or I'll think about catching something on my shoulder, throw it up, boom, catch it on my shoulder, bounce it up. The more that you can sort of create the illusion that you're actually seeing what you're catching and throwing, the more realistic it's going to be. So I like to think about this idea of throwing something and following it no matter where it goes. Using your eyes to direct the audience or whoever's watching you to the illusion that you want them to see is one of the most effective ways that you can make your illusions look more realistic. Like if I was just catching and throwing and not acknowledging anything that I was doing with my eyes, it wouldn't look quite as realistic. Versus if I was actually seeing the thing that I am catching and throwing. Boom. It just makes it look more realistic. It looks like you're actually experiencing the illusion that you're creating. So We can catch and throw things with our knees, with our feet, with our shoulders. You can get as weird with it as you want. You could throw something up and catch it in your mouth. Sometimes I will throw something up and then pretend to eat it, sort of absorb it into my body, and maybe that leads into some sort of other concept. Maybe the thing that I eat sort of starts to take control of my body and manipulate me, if that makes sense. Don't think about it so seriously. Have a little bit of fun with it and just be open to whatever comes out. It's okay if it looks silly or feels silly. It's sort of meant to be like that. It's called freestyle because it's meant to be free and it's meant to be playful. Now we can refine our ideas and make them look better, but that free exploration where you're not feeling hindered by how it looks is a vital aspect of it, because otherwise we're just going to be caught up in trying to make it look cool and how it looks the whole time. So that is the second idea that I have for you guys, thinking about all the different parts of the body that you can utilize to catch something and to throw it. Throw, catch, throw, catch, throw, catch, throw, catch. Remember to have a little bit of fun with this one. It doesn't need to be serious or look any type of way. Just explore and just try to test your creativity. Think about all the different ways that you could catch something or throw something with different parts of your body. Throw it, catch it, throw it, catch it. There's so many ways. Don't limit yourself. Let's go ahead and give this one a shot with some music. And then the third and final idea that we're going to be breaking down for today is this concept of how your catching and throwing affects the rest of your body. Now let me break down what that means a little bit. So we can simply catch something and throw it, and that can be the extent of it. Even if we catch and throw with another part of our body, that could be the extent of it. For this concept, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into not just thinking about the catching and the throwing, but thinking about how the catch and the throw affect the rest of your body. So here's what I mean by that. Let's say that I were to catch something or throw something that was super, super heavy. If I were catching something and throwing something that was actually super heavy, I wouldn't go, right? That doesn't look realistic. That looks nothing like what it would look like to actually catch and throw something heavy. You have to create the illusion that the thing that you are catching and throwing is heavy. So let's say that somebody from over there threw me something that was super heavy. When I catch this thing, it's going to have an effect on the rest of my body. So maybe it comes to me and I catch it and it launches me backwards because the impact was so heavy. And then when I throw it, boom, I have to really put my weight into it in order to make it look like I'm actually throwing something heavy. Or let's say I'm throwing something super hard. If you've ever played baseball or you've just thrown a ball and you've had to throw it really, really far, you know that you can't always do that by just going like this. You have to put a little bit more into it. If I wanted to throw a ball really far, I wouldn't throw it like this. No, I would throw it like this and really put more of my body into it. And so with this concept, what we're thinking about is trying to dive into how the catch and the throw that we're playing around with affects the rest of our body and how we can utilize our body to create a more realistic illusion behind the catch and the throw and the intention that we have for it. So sort of diving into how the rest of your body reacts to a catch or a throw motion, let's pretend that maybe you catch something and then you throw it, but instead of just throwing it, it sort of takes you into a circle. Or maybe you throw something behind your back and you catch it, but when you catch it, you pull it down and it pulls your body into a different pathway. Thinking about how the catch and the throw can work as initiations into another movement idea. So maybe I catch something and I throw it, but instead of just staying stationary, I sort of throw it and it causes my feet to move to the side or move in the direction that I threw it. Maybe I throw something underneath my feet and I have to jump over them. Or maybe I throw something down and I have to stomp my foot on top of it to hold it in place. Kind of diving more into this idea of cause and effect. How does the object or the thing that you are catching or throwing affect the rest of your body? What do you have to put into the motion? And also, how can you create more realistic illusions with your body as you are exploring? How can you utilize your physicality to show that maybe you're catching something super light, or maybe you're throwing and catching something that's super heavy? I think a big part of diving into this idea is diving into this concept of actually immersing yourself into the world that you are creating with your concept. Actually experiencing what it's like to hold or to throw the object that you are catching and throwing. Really trying to feel what the object feels like. If it's a ball of energy, or it's a big rock, or it's just a magic dust. Whatever it is, trying to conceptualize in your mind what that would actually feel like and create the effect or imagine that you are actually holding that thing. The more realistic we can make the experience for ourselves, the more realistic the illusion that that thing is actually happening is going to be. It's like acting in some ways. When people want to more accurately portray the character that they're playing, they dive deep into who the character is and they try to immerse themselves into the character's thoughts, the character's circumstances, and the character's surroundings. In this moment, we are taking on the character or the action of catching something and throwing it. And so the more that we can adopt this idea that we're not just pretending to do it, we're actually catching something and throwing it. And it has an effect on our body as we're playing around with it. And so I think one of the main thoughts behind this idea within this concept of catch and throw is just to dive into immersing yourself into the world that you are creating. When we freestyle, we are essentially creating our own sort of imaginary world. And if we can actually choose to live in the world that we are creating, the illusions and the ideas that we're playing around with are going to become both more fun and more believable. So, for this specific exercise and for this concept, I really invite you to just dive into your imagination and to dive into your creativity. Prioritize your exploration versus trying to make your freestyle look a certain type of way. Don't try to make it look complicated. Try to be honest with your exploration. We can always refine, but if we don't go into something with an open mind and we don't go into something with a playful sort of disposition, we're sort of going into it with a crippling expectation that is going to limit us as we're freestyling and actually have the opposite effect that we want it to. That doesn't mean that we can't refine the ideas that we're playing around with and make them look a little bit better, but first we have to start with getting the ideas out. And so try to think of this as a lab. As you're exploring these ideas, think, I'm just experimenting. I'm experimenting, I'm trying out new ideas, and I'm seeing what fits. I'm seeing what feels good, I'm seeing what doesn't feel so good. And I'm trying to explore my body's capacity to move, and I'm challenging my creative mind with a specific task and with a specific concept. And I think that if you go into it with that perspective, the results and the things that come out of it will be far more rewarding and far more gratifying than if you go into it like it has to look a certain way. It has to be cool, if that makes sense. So, with all that being said, let's go ahead and turn on some music and give this last idea a shot, and then we'll wrap up this video. And that is going to do it for our breakdown of these 3 simple drills / concepts / lab ideas, whatever you want to call them, as we're exploring this concept of catch and throw. I think sometimes when we're labbing, specifically when we're labbing by ourselves, it can just feel overwhelming to know which direction to go in. And so I hope that all 3 of these ideas will sort of help to spark some inspiration or to give you a little bit more direction within your own personal exploration of this concept of catch and throw. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to let me know down below. You can also reach out to me at The Shed on Instagram or TikTok. Also wanted to remind you guys that we just launched our Reviewing Your Freestyle series. That's a Patreon exclusive series that we're launching over here that is exclusive to Patreon members at any tier. And the concept behind that series is that I am reviewing your guys' freestyle clips. If you want more information on how to be a part of that series, see the post down below this video, or you could also follow the link that I put in this post's description. I want to thank you guys so much for your time in watching this video. I hope that these concepts and ideas will prove useful for your next freestyle session. Thank you guys so much for your continual support of me and The Shed. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace out.